everybody, it's Michelle and I'm going to be trying out the Tombow dual brush pens for you guys today. And I have the pastel palette here, and it has 9 pastel colors plus 1 colorless blender. And these have got a brush tip on one end and a fine bullet tip on the other end. It says they're water-based and blendable. And it shows you the colors here on the back that are included in your palette. And we're going to see how these do with blending. And I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I tried these out and I had a little bit of difficulty with them. But what I have come to learn is that you really need particular paper or cardstock to use these on based on what you're using them for. And that's something that I did not know ahead of time before my pens arrived. So I want you guys to know that. There is a page over on Tombow's website that tells you what paper or cardstock they recommend based on what purpose you're going to be using them for. And I've got some different papers here today that we're going to try them on. But actually I only had one of the papers that they recommended. So that might be why I'm not getting good blending and things with them. So just be aware of that and check the link below and you can go over and read on there what kind of paper you're going to need based on what you're going to be doing with your markers. They are good markers, but I just had some trouble with the blending. So we're going to see how that all works out. These are some of the papers that I've got. I've got a piece of vellum here, which actually did pretty good, and we'll look at that. I'm not sure of the brand or the weight of that vellum. I don't have the packaging, so I'm not sure on that. And then I've got some Georgia Pacific Premium, and I've stamped out some pieces here. We're going to try just our markers here and then blending in some of my little stamped heart shapes there and see how we can do on blending in each of the different papers. So I've got the Georgia Pacific Premium. That's just from Walmart. That's very readily available. Nina Bright White. You can get this at just about any craft store and sometimes at Walmart too, I believe. I've got the Strathmore Bristle Smooth cardstock, which normally is very good for blending with other water-based markers, but I didn't have a lot of success with these on the Strathmore. And I have some of the Arteza Expert Watercolor Paper, dual-sided, and we'll try that on both sides, the textured and the smooth, and that is a cold press watercolor paper. And then I've got Canson cold press watercolor paper. And this is the only one that I had that was included in Tombow's suggested cardstocks. And this was suggested as a use for direct to paper blending, so that's what we're going to try it on today. So that is our final one, which was actually the only one I had that was recommended by Tombow. So just be sure to go over there and check out those recommendations and be sure that you're using the right cardstock. With these markers, I have found that it makes all the difference. So first we'll try out the vellum, and it's not too bad. You do pretty good blending with these on the vellum because vellum is sort of a plasticky paper, so it's going to move easily and not absorb into that and allow you to get a pretty good blend. So I'm going to go pink to yellow here and work that yellow in, and you can see you get a little bit of blending. But here is the problem that I experienced with most of these papers is I'm not sure if it's the paper or if it's the other color and that pigment is coming loose, but do you see that crumbling that you get? I experienced a lot of that on most of the papers and cardstocks that I tried. We'll try a green into purple. And I didn't stamp any of the heart images onto my vellum here because I didn't have an ink that would stay and would dry on the vellum. And see, you can see how that starts to crumble and you get sort of like crumbs on your paper. And that is what I experienced in most cases. Okay, so now we're going to try the Georgia Pacific Premium. This is the one that's just available at Walmart. I really do like, though, these fine bullet tips. I need more markers with the fine bullet tip because the finer the better, I've found in some of the coloring of stamped images sometimes. Okay, so on our Georgia Pacific Premium cardstock, we'll color the pink. And you can see that's not even blending super well with itself. You get a little bit of a streaky look there. And then the lighter color. The color is very translucent, allowing a blend with the other color, but it just really eats away at that paper, and you can even see some crumbling starting to happen there. So we'll try yellow. And orange. And where the two colors come together, it just gets very dark and deteriorated, and you start to get that crumbling of the paper. And then the green, or sort of a teal color, into the turquoise. Okay, so there we have that. Now let's see what our colorless blender will do, if it'll help to blend those together. And really it's just eating away at that paper, and I'm getting that crumbling, and you can see how it deteriorates and just tears that paper up. Okay, so we're going to go in on the hearts over here. I'm going to go light pink to the lighter yellow and see if we can get a blend. And again, it's crumbling that paper. So I'm not even going to bother coloring in the rest of my hearts. We already see that the Georgia Pacific Premium crumbles. Okay, so now let's try on our Nina Bright White. Again, not even blending well with itself. When you overlayer that, you get streaks. I gotta say, I've never seen a time when the cardstock you're using your markers on matters more than it does with these Tombows. It really makes a huge difference. And again, we're getting zero blending. As a card maker, I like markers that are good for coloring in images, stamped images, and for using on cards. And I don't know if the Tombows are intended for that, but so far I'm finding that they're probably better for things like lettering and journaling. So as you can see there, again, we're getting that crumbling. It just eats away that paper, and you get crumbs of your paper. And I will try blending on one of the hearts and see what we get there. And these are, if you were to use them for something like stamped images or something on cards, you're not going to be able to work that color. And you can see there, no blending at all. When I try to combine the two colors, I get the crumbling of the paper. Okay, so Nina Bright White was a fail also. Okay, and the Strathmore Bristle Smooth. This is the one that is absolutely the best with any other water-based markers that I have used. But again, not really the case here. So we're going to try it out. It is a lot smoother. It blends with itself much better on that paper. Or cardstock, I should say. Still not really blending into each other so much. You start to get that deterioration. You can see some crumbs already. That did move that color and blend it into that orange a little bit. But still not really ideal. We get a little bit of blending there. You can see that this lighter color moved the darker somewhat so that we can work one into the other and get that blending. But there we've got crumbs again. It's eating away at our cardstock. A little bit of blending there. You can't work with it much though. You start to get those crumbs. And see if our colorless blender helps. Again, it just eats away and crumbles the paper. So Strathmore Bristle Smooth, no good with the Tombows. Now the Arteza cold pressed watercolor paper. This is the Expert dual-sided watercolor paper. I didn't even do the heart on that, but that's okay. We saw that it crumbles. And on watercolor paper, even though I think of watercolor paper as something that's supposed to allow some moisture on top without deteriorating, not really the case here. It absorbs everything, and you can see you get even a much darker color because it's just soaked in to the watercolor paper. And these are the only markers that I have found to perform that way on this watercolor paper. And you can see there, zero blending from the yellow to the orange. The colors do not blend at all, and you've just got crumbs. Again, crumbs. When you try to work that color just a little bit, just as soon as you layer two together, it really starts to deteriorate the paper, not allowing you much time to do very much blending at all. I like to be able to work a little bit more with my color mediums than these seem to be allowing for. I might give them another try later on if I were to get some of the other cardstocks that are recommended. I'm going to try one blend up here and see if that yellow will blend into it and make an orange in between. You can see the yellow laying over and creating an orange, but it's not going to move that and give a blend. It just crumbles when you try to work it enough to get it to do that. So that's the Arteza cold press watercolor paper. We'll go ahead and try that on the other side, the smooth side of that watercolor paper. And I like that a little bit better. It blends with itself a little better. Still not much blending into each other. You just see those harsh lines of the color before, and they don't really blend into each other. See how harsh that line is from the darker blue? And if we try to work that and get any kind of blend in at all, you can already see crumbles starting to form. And it just eats away. Like I said, depending on your use for these, they may be great. But for coloring and card making, I've not found them to be so great just yet. Now, finally, this is our last one. This is the Canson cold press watercolor paper. This is the only one I had that is on their list for direct to paper blending. So we're going to see. This one did perform a little bit better. So like I said, I'm not blaming the markers. They just really are very particular about what paper you use them on. So I wouldn't suggest using them if you don't have one of the recommended papers. You saw how these that are not recommended crumbled away. So this one is the only one I have that was on their list. And we're going to give it a try and see what we can get. Okay, so that did blend into itself pretty good. It's not streaky looking. I'm not seeing those overlaps of my strokes. And even that is starting to crumble away at that paper a little bit, even on the one that was recommended. And I can see sort of a transitional color that creates, but it still leaves those harsh lines. And starts to crumble away the paper. And the blue blended fairly well from a darker blue to the lighter blue. I see a little bit of a granular look to it, although it's not necessarily deteriorating the paper yet. It just has a little bit of a granular look, although the colors did blend. And let's see if we can make that blend into that purple. Again, it's starting to deteriorate. There's some crumbling up right there. And our last color. Whoops, that was the same one. Here we go. This one here. Still not very blendy. So let's try, since this one was on the recommended list, we're going to try all three of our hearts with a little bit of color blending in each of those. We'll try, and I've got crumbs on my tip. So we're going to try that yellow into the light pink. And see if we can get them to transition to an orange color in between. And it blended fairly well. Not the very best, but it's not as good of a blend, but it didn't deteriorate the paper as much as it did on some of the others. A better blend than this one, a better blend than that one. However, it does start to look a little bit grainy as it deteriorates that paper. Okay, I'm going to try a yellow into green, which really doesn't leave much room for a transitional color because green is the transitional color from yellow to blue. But maybe we can get sort of a combination color. A little bit better than what we've seen on the other papers. I'm going to try green into purple and see what we can get with that. And that one's actually not too bad. Not the best, but it's not the worst. And you can see it is starting to eat away at that paper and crumble. So you guys be the judge what you think. Depends on what you're wanting to use your Tombow markers for. I think journaling or lettering or something that you don't want to do a lot of layering over top of each other. They're smooth and the ink comes out great. I just found that on every paper I tried it on, if you really layer that, even a second or third layer over top of that just starts to really crumble it away. As you can see there, just all those crumbs from the paper. And that's not what you want in your card making or even in your journals. So just be sure that you check that list of the recommended cardstocks over on Tombow's website and you be the judge. And if you do decide that they are for you and you have some of those cardstocks and you think they're good for your purposes, then I will have a link below that you can go over to Tombow's website and pick these up. And if you guys have had better luck than I have, leave me a comment below and let me know what did I do wrong and what kind of cardstock do you use them on, what purposes do you use them for, and how they've performed for you. Just leave a comment below and let me know. I would love to know if it's something I'm doing wrong or if I just don't have the right papers. I would really appreciate the feedback. You guys let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. Give me a like over on my Facebook page. And be sure to join our Facebook group, Crafty Minds. Also follow me on Pinterest and Instagram. And don't forget to visit my blog. I'll have the links to everything in the description below, so be sure and check them out. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.